You're listening to the Self-Made is a Myth, Make a Difference Together show with your host, Coach Tim Campsall, where we talk with successful business owners to hear the stories of their journeys in building their successful businesses. And more importantly, we recognize the folks who help them excel because we know that achieving business success is not something we can do on our own.
Hello, everyone. This is Coach Tim Campsall, and I'm excited to have a fellow business owner from Indiana with us today. My guest played basketball for 4 years at Marian University and is currently the president of the board of the Alumni Association. In his downtime, he enjoys spending time with his family, playing and watching sports of all kinds, and he's most proud of his continuous goal of self-improvement. It's my pleasure to welcome Alex to the show today. Hello, Alex.
Hello, Tim. Thanks for having me on the show. I'm really excited to join you and talk a little more about myself, but also about my journey of really how I came to the position that we are today. So
Fantastic. Well, hey, let's start with having you introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit of your personal story, like where you were born and live, about your family and hobbies.
I always say I haven't ventured very far. So I was born in the Greater Indianapolis area. Went to college, as you mentioned, downtown at Marian University, and slowly worked my way north, and now live on the north side of Indianapolis. So not much of a world traveler from that standpoint, but I'm married and have a 5-year-old son and a 2-year-old daughter coming this Friday. So she'll be 2 at the end of the week. So we're excited about that, and always keeps it very exciting and a lot of action at all times, as you can probably imagine. So
Yeah, absolutely. And what's your wife's name?
my wife's name is Mallory.
Fantastic.
We've been married this year will be our 10th wedding anniversary. So
Wonderful. And in your intro, I said that you like sports of all kind. What's your favorite sport to attend?
Probably basketball. Always a big football fan, Colts fans, but basketball would probably be first and foremost in terms of what I like to watch. And in terms of playing, now I don't play as much basketball as I used to, but I still play quite a bit of golf when I can find a spare moment.
So, Colts fan, it's been tough on us for the last few years, hasn't it?
You know what, it has, and it looked like this season there was a little glimmer of hope of
Yeah.
what the future might look like, but with some injuries, which tends to happen in football. But we'll see. I'm still optimistic for the future. So.
Alex, is there a funny story that your family likes to tell about you that you'd be willing to share with us today?
Sure. I don't know if it's a funny story, but more of a something that my family likes to make fun of me for.
Perfect. We love those ones.
I'm a big fan of karaoke, believe it or not. So a lot of times when I tell people that I'm a karaoke aficionado, they say, "Oh, you must be a good singer," and not so much. I like to say what I make up for. I'm not embarrassing by any means, but I like to say what I make up for in talent. I fill in with enthusiasm. So they like to give me a hard time about my passion for karaoke.
Yeah. What's your favorite song to sing?
You know what? I have a whole set list, so it depends on the crowd. I could go anywhere from Michael Jackson to Vanilla Ice to Maroon 5 to Morgan Wallen and anywhere in between. So
Nice. So you pull out a little Ice Ice Baby.
Ice Ice Baby, that's right. You got it.
Love it. Alex, tell us about how the business came about, and at what point did you have the confidence you could run your own business?
Yeah, so I think you kind of just come into it. I don't know if there's ever a switch that flips and just say, I think I'm ready, right? It just kind of morphs over time. But essentially how I got started in the business is I was actually an intern with my business partner and started with him, and he was great in terms of getting me involved. And he and I had built up the practice for about 8 or 9 years. And almost got to a point that we were at capacity and couldn't bring on any new clients. So we decided to forge out and maybe join some team with some infrastructure. But it's been a great ride, and the business itself has continued to grow, and it's just been successful. But in terms of knowing I was ready to be a business owner, I think you just, the duties and responsibilities slowly trickle onto your plate, and eventually you're a business owner, right? So that's the way it worked out for me anyway. And I think that's, talking to a lot of my peers, that a lot of times is the way that it just ends up working out.
So tell us more about the company. What's the name? What do you guys do? How do you help people?
Yeah, so we are Shepherd Financial, and specialize in retirement plans on my side of things. So we are the largest retirement plan advisory firm in the state of Indiana, and one of the largest in the Midwest. My 100% focus is on employer-sponsored plans, 401ks, 403bs, 457 plans, and non-qualified deferred comp, things like that. But helping employers manage those benefits, helping employers, use the retirement plan as a recruiting and retention tool,
Fantastic.
to gather talent. So, as the business came to be, as I mentioned, I was an intern when I was at Marian. It seems like almost 15 years ago now. And I started, and what I was doing as an intern is I was going around to a lot of my business partners, retirement planning clients, and sitting down with those folks that weren't enrolled. And we had a couple of accounts that were, lower income folks that tend to not participate in a plan. And my job was to go around to the 44 locations and sit down with them and just explain, how the retirement plan works. And from there, it morphed into a full-time job. And from there, it morphed into a 50-50 partnership. And as I mentioned earlier, it really, we hit capacity. My business partner at the time was 64, I believe. And we had to make a decision of whether it was time to, invest some capital into some additional individuals, or join a team with some infrastructure. And him being 64 at the time, wasn't overly excited, as you can imagine, about making a huge capital infusion into the business, with his timeline, getting closer to retirement happening. So we went out and looked at a couple other firms, and ultimately decided to merge our practice in with Shepherd Financial. So been here for 4 going on 5 years, and it's been great.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Awesome. So everyone listening, make sure to check out the company and the link in the description, and go visit Alex on LinkedIn and let him know that you watched his interview. So, hey, Alex, share a story where someone pushed or inspired you that you could do it. And even though maybe you didn't have the confidence that you could, and the impact that that person had on you.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I've mentioned my business partner several times, but his name is George Lauk. Really is my mentor, in addition to my business partner. And I can't thank George enough for all he's done for me over the years. But really, where I see that he made the biggest impact is giving me the opportunity. And he put me in a lot of situations where he and I, for the first couple years, were almost tied at the hip. But anytime you'd see George, you'd see me, and vice versa. So I was exposed to a lot of situations and in a lot of meetings that, someone in their, early to mid 20s wouldn't necessarily be in with other business owners and C-suite individuals running companies. So, George always encouraged me. I wouldn't say pushed so much, but encouraged me to get involved and take action in those meetings where, I didn't always feel overly confident that I was ready to take on the opportunity or the project at hand. But George always encouraged me to take, responsibility and ownership of those jobs. And I'm very grateful that he has, and it's kind of helped me morph into some of the skill sets and experiences that I've had today.
What a great long-term view that George had, because oftentimes it's just easier for us to do it ourselves, right? Versus coach and train and teach someone else to do it. So what a blessing
100%.
that he had that, that long-term view and patience to take you through that learning process.
Absolutely. No, he had extreme foresight and wisdom in that capacity. And it's kind of funny now. I started as his intern, and through our process with him starting to phase out, now I'm his boss. So it's kind of come full circle, and we joke about that a lot. But no, George has been a great not only mentor and business partner, but also a great friend, for the last 15 years.
Well, it's a good thing he treated you well, because now that you're his boss, karma can be an
Correct,
interesting thing.
correct. He's taking great care of me, and I make sure I want to pay that forward. Absolutely.
So, Alex, what's your biggest learning as a business owner?
I think, when you're not necessarily a business owner, you have these grandiose visions of what you would do when you're in leadership, and how you would run the company, and all that. So at Shepherd Financial now, we have about 35 going on, I think 36 here in a couple of weeks, team members strong. And you want to, encourage a very positive work environment and all that. But what I've found is you just have to make decisions on what you think is best for the organization and best for everyone, because it doesn't matter. Any decision that you make is might not going to, make 100% of the workforce happy, but you just have to do what you think is best, and move forward for the health of the company, and health of yourself, and this health of the individuals and their families of our employees. So
I that decision making is key, because too many people can get stuck in the uncertainty of what's going to result, and therefore not make a decision at all. And as business owners, we have to make decisions, right? If we sit on the fence, we're going to fail. Um, Versus if we make a decision and start to execute it, and maybe it doesn't quite go the way we wanted it to, but we won't even have that learning, right, if we don't move forward. So I appreciate you sharing that, because I think there's a lot of folks listening that maybe are, hesitant to make those decisions because of the things you're saying, right? Not everyone's going to agree with it, and what if I offend someone, and so on and so forth.
right.
So
Yeah.
how do you navigate through that? What I'll call it, a fear, for lack of a better word, of fear of offending someone or disappointing someone. How do you navigate through that?
Yeah, again, I think it all just goes back to making decisions on what you think is best, there's the nice quote, you're never wrong to do the right thing, and
Yeah.
sometimes the right thing isn't always the right thing to everybody, but having your own moral compass, and what you think is right, and as long as you're making decisions, not for selfish reasons or self-interest, I think that making decisions becomes a lot easier when you can look at it maybe through that scope versus in a vacuum. So
That's awesome. Hey, Alex, we know that business success doesn't happen in isolation. So tell us about your biggest challenge over the years as a business owner, and maybe a fellow owner who came alongside you and helped you through that.
yeah, so George, prior to us making the transition over to Shepherd Financial, George was he and I making all the decisions, and it was very easy because we were two owners making the decision that impacts two people, right? So it wasn't that big of a challenge really. But now moving forward, over the last 4 years here with Shepherd, I have 5 other business partners that are owners in the organization, and it's very nice to have those folks as a sounding board, and really a decision making as a committee, because they're all have a lot of experience, have been in the same situations over decades amount of time. So whenever I come across a situation that maybe I'm unfamiliar with, or would like a second opinion, I always have that nice resource to fall back on, to talk to my business partners, and gather what maybe what they think is best, or their 2 cents.
Yeah, because sometimes it can be very lonely at the top. So, having that group to be able to go to, right, allows you to, it sounds like, can get out of your own head and say, hey, I'm kind of stuck here. I'm not sure how to think through this process. So,
No, that's exactly right. There's always things that when we're making decisions, maybe we don't always think about in the time being. So having, a few backups to double check the decision, and double check the reasoning and rationale behind the decision, I think is always a good thing.
Alex, I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit, and
Yeah.
ask you to pick 3 people in your business owner journey that you're most grateful for them being there to help you with your business's growth. So who are those 3 people, and how'd they help you?
Yeah, well, of course, we've talked a lot about George so far. So George would certainly be in the top 3. I think also, in addition to my current business partners, my parents. So my dad is actually just retired a few years ago, a handful of years ago, but he was also a business owner himself. So I saw firsthand growing up what that looks like, and the ups and the downs of entrepreneurship. So he was an owner of a construction company.
Okay.
So, it ebbs and flows with the market, right? When things are going well, and 2008 is a good example of that. Their company, was funded well, and had strong financial fundamentals, that they weren't over leveraged, so they didn't get themselves in trouble. But definitely seeing the cycles of business, and how that affects not only him as an individual, but really the family as a whole, was enlightening to see. And then, my third one is my wife. Obviously, a lot of the decisions that are made around our working careers, and going into business for ourselves, and being an entrepreneur and an owner, always comes back to our family lives. And my wife is incredibly supportive, and cannot thank her enough for all that she's done, both for me personally, and helping with the family, and helping me really grow as an individual. And we always laugh at our younger selves, right? When we think about when we first met, when we were 20 years old, and where we are today, and just not only the differences in our lives, but also the differences that we are as people. So
Fantastic. I love it. And what's your dad's name?
my dad's name is Jim Sylvester. So my dad owned a construction company, and has actually since passed that down to my brother, who is running that construction company. My mom also a great journey in her career. She worked at Eli Lilly for just short of 50 years, I believe. So had a long career there, and had success in her own right.
Wonderful. Alex, as you think about the next 3 to 5 years, what's the biggest challenge that you see that you're going to face in getting to your goals, and who are the types of people that you'll need to solve that challenge?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and we work with 250 plus companies today to help administer retirement plans. And I think our challenges, especially over the last few years, have been what most people are experiencing, and just the challenge of workforce, right? I think there are fewer and fewer training programs out there, where we don't have that pool of young talent coming in, that's getting in at the entry level positions. That's always a challenge. Obviously, it seems like everyone's competing for talent in one capacity or another. So we have tremendous growth goals, which is great, and we've been successful in meeting those goals. Especially since I've been here the last 4 years, I can attest to that. And we want to keep that trajectory, but it becomes harder and harder the bigger you get to stay on that trajectory. So continuing to build out our infrastructure to allow for that growth. We think we have a lot of opportunity, and we really think that our process and our services and capabilities are a big differentiator in the market. So we do think that we can continue to grow that story, but it's just getting the infrastructure and really the people component in place to make sure that we can continue to grow like we want to.
You mentioned it a couple times in your answer. The finding those people in this competitive marketplace has been tough. So one of the things that can help differentiate for everyone listening is making sure that you've got your culture defined, and the vision and the mission of your company defined, because people want to be part of something bigger than themselves. They want to feel like they're making an impact in the marketplace, or in their communities, that they're that coming to work every day is meaningful in that bigger and greater good. So the mistake a lot of us can make is to hire just based on skills and experiences, and even post the job description out on job boards, instead of turning it into a marketing ad where you're romancing the company, and you're talking about the values and the beliefs of the company. Because we've all had experiences where we've made a bad hire, right? And it's not a good cultural fit, and it destroys the environment for everybody. So
That's
the
right.
slow fire fast mentality of making sure we're getting the right people on the bus.
That's right. No, that's I 100% agree with that. Getting the right folks in the right seats on the bus is what we like to say. So that I certainly can attest. And again, I think that culture component is big because we work with, manufacturing and construction and social workers and higher ed and everywhere in between. So we see a lot of different employee demographics, and those companies that really are successful have that defined culture. And it starts really from the top down in terms of the leadership and the belief in the culture. It's not just a mission statement that that's up on the wall or up on the website. Is, are we actually following that mission statement and acting and making decisions based on that?
And I like earlier what you said about, making decisions based on doing the right thing and following that moral compass, or following, the company values and beliefs. It helps to make those decisions a whole lot easier, right? Because it's kind of becomes black and white of, hey, this person's not aligned to our culture. They're not following our internal code, and they might be a great person, but right, it might be time to part ways just because, right, it's not the right fit.
Correct. Correct. Absolutely.
So, Alex, last question here. Jim Rohn, an amazing business guru, says that we become the average of the 5 people that we spend the most time with. So, as you think about that, what advice would you have for business owners who are trying to do it on their own?
Yeah, I think finding that peer is always uh, something that's very helpful. Again, having that sounding board, because we do see a lot of times, you mentioned it earlier, it's lonely at the top, right? Having someone that's in your shoes and goes through the same experiences that you will, because it's easy to be a Monday morning, a couch quarterback, right? Of saying, well, that was not a very smart decision, but actually having somebody that's been in the trenches with you or been a similar experience that understands and feels what you've gone through is invaluable. So having that peer or that mentor, I think, is key to being a successful entrepreneur and really building out that network. So it doesn't necessarily always have to be a direct peer, but whether it's an accountant or an attorney or another professional individual that again can really share their experiences in dealing with their own businesses or dealing with similar type clients or companies that will be able to add some value to whatever situation or decision that has to be made.
I like the word peer that you use, because it doesn't always have to be a partnership like the model that you had, where you had your partner George, and now have expanded to multiple partners. It doesn't have to be that model. It can be, you meet somebody at a networking event that has a similar, type of business that you're willing to share stories and encourage and motivate one another, and to your point, right, have somebody that you can reach out to ask questions and motivate and challenge one another.
Absolutely.
You mentioned networking. So things I hear a lot is, well, I don't want to bother that other business owner because they're probably busy, they're not going to have time for me. So can you just talk a little bit about that in terms of your perspective on somebody, a fellow business owner, reaching out and saying, hey, Alex, can I get a few minutes with you?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's a little bit of a cliche these days. Your network is your net worth, right? But it's absolutely true, and business is built on relationships, and ours is certainly true to that. We have a lot of partnerships with a lot of organizations, and continuing to build those is absolutely key. I think in terms of how do you build those strong relationships, I reach out to folks that I admire as business owners and really as individuals, just to say, hey, I just want to take you for breakfast. And I think sometimes when I do that the first time, they think, well, what do you want from me? What are you trying to sell me? But it's really, I just want to pick their brain and see about the situations and gather some experience, because back to my early days when I was just learning, I learned through osmosis, right? I was just in the room and was listening to the conversation. So being able to listen to those folks through that networking, because obviously there are times where you'd like help from those individuals, or maybe you'd like business from those individuals, but going into it with a mentality of, maybe I can help this person. And then, it comes full circle. So if you always have your hand out, I think there's going to be a lot of folks that do shy away, right? But if you're going to with a mentality that I want to learn and I maybe want to help this individual, I think a lot of folks like to talk about that, right? Like you said earlier, it's lonely at the top. I'm going to keep coming back to that. Business owners like to talk to other business owners and share that commonality that you have of the situations that you've been in. So.
You mentioned just making sure that folks don't think you're wanting to sell them. I think that's important to communicate that. A previous guest had mentioned, even being overt about, hey, I noticed that you wrote a post about this or a video about this, and that's something that I could benefit from in my business. So would you be willing to, gift me 30 minutes of your time to share a little bit more about that so I can learn from you? And right, that flips the script in terms of, I'm not trying to meet with you to sell you something. I want to learn from you. And people enjoy talking about themselves and love the idea that they can help somebody else with their knowledge and wisdom. So
right,
if we communicate it correctly, much more opportunity for somebody to say, or probability for somebody to say yes and gift us their time, right?
Correct. 100% correct.
So Alex, it's been awesome having you on the show. It sounds like you've had some incredible people that, have been beneficial in your journey. If they were all on the show here today, what would you want to say to them?
I want to say, first and foremost, thank you. So I try to do a good job at expressing my gratitude for, those individuals over the years. They know they've made a big impact on my life. And, of course, my wife and my family I see all the time, but my business partner, George, I've mentioned a few times now. I'm forever grateful. I even, kind of a fun fact here, I even forever memorialized my gratitude. I named my daughter after him. So my daughter's Georgia, named after George. And again, I can't thank, all my network and my team for all that they've done over the years. I've been extremely fortunate to be in the situations that I've been in and have the knowledge base and opportunities that they've presented. So forever grateful for everyone that's been a part of my now 16 year career. So
Alex, it's been awesome chatting with you today. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Sam, again, very honored to be on the show, and thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Self-Made is a Myth show with your host, Coach Tim Campsall. Please help spread this movement by liking and subscribing to our show and following us on Facebook and LinkedIn or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. To join our movement, go to bemadtogether.com. Okay, folks, that's a wrap. Please pay it forward and be sure to tune in next time to the Self-Made is a Myth podcast.